Why don't you tell us what a DAC is, why that's important, and how that makes EOS special to me?
For sure.
I was going to connect in just really simply, just to lay the groundwork of this EOS. So you heard Bitcoin where, it was just one application, use it, trade this, and that's about it. This EOS platform that was built was for the purpose of having applications on top of it. So we all call them apps. You'll hear a word called dApp. They just say it's distributed. And really, I wouldn't even use that word for the common person. Let's just call it an app. And the normal user, if done right, they're not going to know or see any of this background. You know what I mean? People don't, Max uses the analogy, we get running water out of our tap. You don't know what brand of pipe is bringing that into your house, nor do you care, right? The pipe from the foundation's laid. So that's kind of the evolution of this actually being used to have free, open source distributed applications instead of going through monopolies like Google and all these other things. And then the whole incentivization to bring people in there, these guys will talk about, but it's just phenomenal how we're changing the way we think value is created. And it's nice that we didn't, well, I shouldn't say we didn't develop this, but we are a core component of making those pipes work as a BP or a block producer. So instead of a miner, you have hundreds of independent companies, self-financed or public or wherever they're getting their funds from to support this network. And before, in the day of a miner, you could just contribute by plugging in a machine and being a node in a network and getting rewarded. This new system of being a node or a block producer in this network, it's just not plugging in a machine and keeping the network stable. You have to be giving something to the community, and then all the stakeholders vote on which people are giving the most to the community to support that network. So the top 21 people that are supporting this network are getting paid. And then there's a backup, another 60 or 70 people that are getting paid. And if there's a bad actor or something's not right of the intent of supporting this network, people change their votes. And so it's a little, so that's how it's distributed, and that's how there's resiliency in this network. So if there were political actions somewhere, if there was decisions outside us that we couldn't predict that might take some of this network down, it's so resilient that more people just pop up. Yeah.
Some of the failures with the proof of work consensus algorithms, like when Bitcoin kind of forked off and created Bitcoin Cash because their communities couldn't agree. When Ethereum had a big hack, they made Ethereum Classic because their communities couldn't agree. And so I saw the need for on-chain mechanisms for governance and consensus, coming to agreement as a community about how we're going to do the thing we're doing. And so when EOS came along, it's basically a way you can build smart contracts and have on-chain governance in that model that Dwayne was just describing. And I've been working with an organization called EOS DAC, and we're building decentralized autonomous community software so anyone can launch these entities. And the way to think about a DAC, I describe it as just a group of people with a shared goal. And it could be a nonprofit, it could be a company, it could be an organization, it could be a government. It doesn't really matter. When they have this shared goal, they say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then they tokenize that service or product or offering, anything they're going to do together. And then whoever thinks that's a valuable thing might buy up that token or earn that token through work. And from that token, they then elect custodians and people who make decisions. So it can be a flat democracy if you want it, or it can be a representative democracy. You can do it however you want. But at that point, there's now a structure for these people to come to agreement. And they have, they'll put a proposal out there and say, hey, we'd like to do this with the budget. Do you guys agree? And the people who are providing the most value in the view of the stakeholders, the token holders, they'll say, okay, we're going to elect that person, and they're going to make a decision to either spend the money to do that or not, pay that person or not. And it's completely transparent. Every decision is available for everyone to review, critique, discuss, and it creates incredible opportunities because, like was mentioned earlier, for the first time ever, the customer is also the employee, is also the owner. So as a user of the system, you might say, oh, that website can be fixed, or man, their marketing's not very good, I could do better marketing than that. And they come in and say, okay, well, I can put a proposal to the custodian and say, I want to do this marketing project for this amount of budget. And they say, yeah, that's awesome, you guys have done great work, yeah, let's pay that. And they can actually pay that. And then now that person who is doing that work used to be a user, now they're an employee, they're getting paid, and all of a sudden they earn these tokens to become an owner, and that dividend maybe gets generated, and now they're being rewarded as an owner. It just creates incredible synergies where currently in the system, employees, customers, owners, they're generally in conflict. Like the employees want to get paid the most amount of money, do the least amount of work. Owners want to maximize profit for shareholders and themselves, and the customers just want the best product, the cheapest price. And those are just constantly in conflict. With this tokenomics model, a new way of thinking about economics through tokenization, and with a transparent system where this voting, these proposals, and all that can be on chain, it's really going to be incredibly disruptive. And as we were talking earlier today about the value we can bring to all of you, is just to be aware of what's coming. This is going to be incredibly disruptive for businesses, nonprofits, governments.
So this new paradigm treats the customer as more of an equal. So rather than talking at them, you're talking with them. It's more of it goes back to this community engagement thing that I've been kind of obsessed with for over a decade now.
So Bitcoin's the first one, and then Ethereum come out. Is it safe to say it's like first generation, second generation,
Yes.
and EOS coming out would be
Third,
three?
fourth, yeah.
Third,
Yeah,
fourth.
there's some in between where there's actual websites, or not websites, but there's blockchains that you have the ledger on the back end, and on the front end, it's a website where
Yeah.
people can upvote and downvote, and there's a whole economic system that's called Steemit.
Right.
And
I know those.
yeah, Steemit is like profound idea. There's a couple others in between that aren't worth mentioning right now, but yeah. So it's like EOS would be like third or fourth gen, something like that.
And Ethereum and EOS are more like operating systems, just decentralized operating systems, just like Android or Apple or whatever.
Exactly.
So, okay.
For the internet.
Yeah, for the internet.
Yeah.
And
First operating system.
yeah, it took me a while to realize what they mean by smart contracts.
Yeah.
It's the same as a smartphone or a smart refrigerator. It's just connected to everything.
Yeah. So a smart contract is basically, if you're in application development, it's basically the back end of the application. So you're
Yeah.
designing an API that is basically storing. So you're basically compiling the code, uploading it to the blockchain,
Yeah.
and then you have an API, and then you can design your front end using whatever
Right
language you want, JavaScript or whatever you want to use.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
And the really important thing is that those contracts can make decisions based on global consensus. So that's where the autonomous part comes in, with the decentralized autonomous community, where if all the people are no longer involved, it keeps existing. It's like a living organism. As long as it gets energy from participation, it continues on. So a key kind of defining characteristics of a smart contract is that it has to, if you look it up on Wikipedia, it has to be on a blockchain. It has to be on this immutable ledger, because it's not something that you could just say, well, let's just change it, or let's just modify this without following proper, transparent rules for how that happens. And that creates incredible a lot of trust and engagement by your community, saying, oh, I know what I'm going to get. It's not like the Enron situation where they got some separate set of books over here or there, or they can mess with the system, because it's all on a shared set of rules that everyone agrees to.
Okay. Can you explain staking briefly? Because you get your tokens and then you lock them up in some way, and how does that contribute to the security of the, I don't even know what to say about it.
I could talk about that a little bit. So a lot of different tokens have different features to because the token itself is also a smart contract. It's a contract. So staking is a feature that you could add to tokens. Some tokens have staking, some don't. In the particular EOS network, there is a staking component where you stake your tokens, and that gives you basically access to this shared collaborative commons of resources to this operating system. So like CPU, bandwidth, things you'd have in a normal computer.
Unless you vote.
Unless you vote,
Like on the
exactly.
block producers do.
Exactly. So it's kind of a stake-weighted vote. So whoever, if you put in a whole bunch of money in this system, you're basically betting that this is going to be valuable, and so you get to have more say than someone else on
So you get
who
like-
gets to run the system.
Like one
Access
vote
to
per
info,
token.
too. Yeah, exactly. One vote per token. And that is really important, in that if I've got no skin in the game, if you read Nicholas Taleb, talking about skin in the game, if I've got no skin in the game, then I've got really no say. If I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is and say I'm locking it up, and as far as the actual mechanics of what happens, in the EOS particular staking model, it's a 3-day lockup. So it's locked in that contract, no one can access it. And you have to run another command to say, hey, I want it back now as liquid tokens I can sell on an exchange. That takes 3 days. And that's another example of what makes it smart. That's completely trusted. It's not like or, you know, Federal Reserve, where it's like, hey, we want to see the audit. It's all there. It's like completely trusted.
Yeah.
The code is there. Everyone knows how it's going to run, and there's no guess as to whether or not you're going to get your tokens. It's absolutely guaranteed. In 3 days, you get your tokens.
And so when you develop a DAC or dApp, you build it on top of the EOS platform. And the user, I guess, they don't need any tokens to operate this.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, it depends on how you want to architect it.
So we're on EOS, there's like, I mean, it really does. There's, I want to guess like 500 apps. Maybe that might be a conservative estimate. Most of them are gambling applications at this current moment, just because that's kind of a natural progression of like all things on the internet. Any technology, people go more towards kind of interesting subject matters. But so with these gambling applications, you can stake EOS, or they have like a native token. And so they have their own token. You gamble on their application. It's like there's like slot ones, there's like blackjack, and by playing it, you get their token, right? So they're rewarding you for engagement. And then what you can do is you can stake it, and it basically ties it up. You're not sending it to them to keep, you know, like there's not someone like someone's account they have custody over. It's like it's a
risk.
Yeah, it's locking it up in a way where you still have it in your account, but you don't have access to it. And then in turn, you're getting a dividend of the shareholdings off the site. So it's making it extremely, you know, equitable for participation on these platforms. Yeah, passive income. So you can literally, and this is on like a common feature on like a couple hundred of these games.
How are they monetizing that engagement? So
By use.
What's in it for the app?
Oh, well, they're getting people depositing their cryptocurrency, their EOS coins. So they're spending money. They're literally making actual money gambling.
So you're gambling with cryptocurrency.
Yes. Yeah. So on these gambling sites, you can take your currency, send it to these exchanges, and trade it. There's like bots that are trading them now. So essentially, there's all these free markets that are assessing what the value of these tokens is. And yeah, it's very, very different paradigm to what we've seen with, you know, normal traditional companies, the way they, you know, offer their value proposition.
I wanted to add a little something. So any process where you have third-party risk, I mean, you can remove that from the equation, right? Because you have a smart contract on blockchain, it's transparent, everybody knows what the code is. So
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
It gets people to ask the fundamental question. If you're around this space for long enough, you start to question, I have pieces of paper in my wallet, why are they valuable? You know, what makes money valuable? It's a really fundamentally interesting question, because it gets people to think about, it's basically shared storytelling. It's what you all do in marketing. It's like when we create stories, people believe it's valuable, and then it becomes valuable. It's self-fulfilling. And so when you give away a token for free, because you are the issuer of it, how do you also get people to think it's valuable? These are in conflict. And some of these applications are kind of exploring how to do that in really interesting
Value
ways.
is tied to the sort of value of the community's output.
Exactly. Exactly. Whatever product or service they're doing that people find valuable, such as Spotify or something like that, they can say, oh man, that's valuable. I'm going to buy that token so I can listen to more songs. And all of a sudden, that service demonstrates through free market activity what the value of the token is. There's no person that gets to set, here's the value of our token, kind of like with the traditional reward system. It's like this reward gives you a free Big Mac or whatever, and it's kind of like they're setting what the value is, but maybe the community says, it's not worth that, and then there's no engagement. Instead, the community gets to decide, oh, I think it's worth this much. And you actually, it's a risk, but as the entity behind it, you get to discover along with your own community. And you might make mistakes, and you might find something interesting. It's really a dynamic process with less top-down structure, but it's also really adaptive and exciting.